When I was teaching science at Sebastopol Technical School in the mid-1960s, I taught a unit of science on astronomy. One of the great things about Ballarat, apart from its cold winters, is that it has a wonderful amateur astronomical society to which I belonged at that stage. I used to take students from Sebast Tech to Mount Pleasant, where the Astronomical Society was based, during the evenings to look at the stars. The Society had a large 26-inch reflecting telescope which took a day or two to put up, as it was housed in a building where the roof was on railway lines and we had to have enough personnel to shift the whole roof of the building so we could put the telescope up. It had two great weights attached to it that went down many metres into the ground, which was the self-tracking mechanism. As you know, I think the Earth turns a degree every 4 minutes, so if you'd set it up on a particular star, a few minutes later it was off beam again. Every harvest time from 1959 to 1966, I worked on a wheat farm at Witcherproof. Some nights it was so hot in the house I couldn't sleep because it was way before aircon, so I would get 3 44-gallon drums and put my stretcher over the drums and just lay there looking at the stars and the Milky Way and wondering what it would be like to travel to such places. Recently, in an article in the Age newspaper, April the 23rd, there appeared an article on a massive black hole. Astronomers have recently discovered a near record-breaking supermassive black hole. It weighs 17 billion times the weight of our sun and 400 times the diameter of our sun. This black hole is so huge, so big and hungry, it generates a tongue of superheated material known as plasma, fueled by the crushing remnants of stars that are being sucked into its vortex. This black hole is located about 200 million light years away from the Earth in the direction of the constellation Eridanus. As the ground-up stars and gas spin at close to the speed of light around the mouth of this black hole, they generate extremely powerful magnetic fields. The magnetism is so powerful that it flings these tiny particles out into space as huge, super hot jets. If we consider the reading from Mark's Gospel this morning, we see that it is a tale of exorcism. Let's deconstruct it for a moment. Mark had introduced Jesus' mission to his fellow Galileans with the scene of exorcism on a Sabbath in the synagogue in Capernaum, in classical scribal territory. Mark had identified the encounter in terms of a contrast of authorities, that of Jesus, who taught as one having authority, and that of the scribes, who had less authority. The authority in question was precisely that capacity to author life and freedom in others, a capacity flowing from the abundance of life and truth within. And Mark's symbols are powerful in the story. This man, as you heard in the reading, lived among graves, the places of the dead, an abhorrence to Jewish sensibilities. He was strong. He was a threat to others. He was a source of suffering, even to himself. And then the demonic man shouted at Jesus, but Jesus showed no fear. His own inner strength and truth allowed him to immediately recognize the presence of this unclean spirit within this man and demanded the unclean spirit to name itself. The spirit said, "My name is Legion, because there are many of us. Legion, of course, was a name familiar to all Roman citizens, as well as to all subjected to the exploitative might of Rome. The Roman legions were the means by which Roman imperial machine kept conquered people submissive. The demonic man pleaded with Jesus not to send the legion of spirits infesting him out of the country, but rather to emphasise the horror of the Roman power to Jewish sensitivities. Mark had the spirits entreat Jesus to allow them to enter instead into a herd of pigs. Jews detested pigs, and to eat pig meat was to betray one's Jewishness. No pork on the fork that night. It is interesting to note that the words in this story had a general meaning but also carried particular military overtones. The word translated herd was also used for a company of legionnaires. To give permission meant in military terms to dismiss. To rush down the steep bank was used to describe a charge by soldiers, and the number of over 1,000 was a significant proportion of the number of soldiers making up a legion. And Mark left no doubt that he saw the black hole of the man's demonic possession in terms of its Roman socio-economic oppression. Why then talk about black holes today? Because I'd like to use black holes as a metaphor for dealing with our own emotional black holes. What is an emotional black hole? Some psychologists also call it hitting the self-destruct button. Self-sabotaging goals, aspirations and dreams, and existing in a negatively charged emotional state that makes life nearly unbearable for yourself and for everybody around you. Any of these sound familiar? I can identify with a few of them. I don't feel like it. I hate the way I look. Life would be better if I looked da-da-da-da-da. I'm so frustrated. I would try more if only I had da-da-da-da. It's not worth it. No one understands me. I just want to hide. I don't care anymore. I give up. I guess all of us have been there, saying or thinking some of those things. Emotional black holes, of course, can be triggered by any one of these obstacles: desire, anger, delusion, greed, envy, and sloth. And these obstacles translated into emotional black holes often result in many, many forms of self-destruction, unhealthy habits, both physically and mentally, and emotional hang-ups. And these obstacles keep us from knowing the deepest part of ourselves and furthermore from developing an understanding of all life. How can we stop then our emotions from being sucked into the vortex of a black hole? Initially, of course, we need to recognise the symptoms of sabotage. Symptoms like giving up not based on anything reasonable, insatiable cravings, procrastination, waiting for something unreasonable or unnecessary to happen in order to start something, not believing in what you're doing, an inability to focus and concentrate, and being too easily distracted from the task at hand. Then we need to recognise the thoughts that lead to the sabotage. The great Buddha says, "We are what we think." And Shakespeare says, "It is neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so." Sometimes it is hard to hear our own inner voice, our inner wisdom, when we have a multitude of other voices screaming for our attention. Learning to observe these voices and attaching our reaction to them, sometimes it's stress or another emotion, can give ourselves some space to think. Perhaps things aren't as intensive or horrible as they seem. Perhaps with thinking time, They may be manageable. We need to be aware of our thoughts as we step out on a new goal or a new project. Are they positive and self-affirming, or are they negative and full of self-trashing and doubt? What are your self-deprecating thoughts when you make a mistake or don't achieve the outcome that you desire? Learning to recognise the negativity and judgment that we impose upon ourselves can be a huge way to promote a positive change from within. It is important that we remove from our own inner dialogue anything that isn't of compassion and care towards ourselves. A further thing that we can do to stop our emotions from being sucked into a black hole is don't attach yourself to the drama. It is so easy sometimes to get caught up in the drama of a situation. How many people do you know who make mountains out of molehills? It is so easy to be drawn into the minutiae or details of a family dispute, an argument at work, a parent-teacher interview, another person's behaviour, and not see the broader picture of what is going on. Over the years, I've learnt to use the STOP method. S stands for stop. Do not react. Freeze. Do not move a muscle. Your emotions may try to make you act without thinking. T, take a step back from the situation. Take a break. Let go. Take a deep breath. O is for observe. Notice what is going on inside you and outside of you. What is the situation and what does it demand? And P, proceed mindfully. Act or behave with awareness. And in deciding what to do, consider your thoughts and your feelings, the situation and other people's thoughts and feelings. And when we make an honest effort to understand our obstacles without attaching drama to them, we open ourselves up to the possibility of learning something about ourselves. We will then evolve from thinking, what is wrong with me, to understanding that everything is temporary and open to change. Some of you would be familiar with Eckhart Tolle's books, and in one of his books he writes, if small things have the power to disturb you, then who you think you are is exactly that, small. The final thing we can do to avoid black holes of the emotions is to break the patterns. One of the sayings that has stuck with me over the years after doing some cognitive behavioural therapy and thinking about breaking patterns of behaviour in my own life is this: start behaving in a way that you are not feeling, rather than trying to feel your way into a new way of behaving. To break patterns of habitual thinking or behaving, we have to behave in a new way so that new pathways of the brain can be created and new behaviours or emotional responses can be practiced. We all have black holes within us. We all have to struggle with things like fear, insecurity, anxiety, sometimes depression or low mood, and low self-esteem. Retraining our minds and bodies is a step towards unconditional acceptance and compassion for all of life, including our own. Our blessing. Creator God, may the Divine Spirit bless you and keep you. May the beloved companion look into your eyes and have mercy upon you. And may the eternal Spirit's countenance be turned to you and give you peace. Amen.